I want you to take a moment and close your eyes. Seriously, close your eyes. Imagine you're in a classroom. You're sitting at a wooden bench, shoulder to shoulder, with 4 other students. In front of you, there are many benches filled with students. Behind you, even more. It's an unbearably hot 90-degree day. At the front of the classroom, you see a wooden chalkboard. Your teacher walks in, and you hear her say, صباح الخير. قبل ما نبدأ حصة النهاردة سلموا الواجب بتاع امبارح. Now open your eyes. This is Akbar's reality. Akbar, who is here in the audience today, is pictured here with his Refuge mentor, Matt. Akbar recently resettled to the United States from Burundi. He dreams of becoming a performer and plays 5 instruments. He's able to repeat songs that he's heard solely by ear, which is absolutely incredible. Sometimes he gets frustrated when he can't write lyrics due to his grasp of English. Due to circumstances outside of their control, many refugee students, like Akbar, sit in classrooms where they struggle to grasp even the simplest of conversations, just as you did when I spoke Arabic moments ago. According to the United Nations, at the end of 2018, 70.8 million people were forcibly displaced worldwide. Of those 70.8 million, 30 million of them were refugees. A refugee is defined as a person who has had to flee his or her home due to persecution, war, or violence. Of those 30 million people, over half of them were under the age of 18. My work with the refugee community started in 2015, when I was a tutor at my local mosque. I tutored a group of adult female refugees from Syria. During one of my sessions, a woman told me the story of her son, Ziad. Ziad had just been accepted to medical school in Syria. Ever since he was 8 years old, he had dreamed of becoming a doctor. Unfortunately, he can no longer realize that dream. I learned that Ziad's home and school in Syria were bombed, leaving no trace of his educational record. I immediately wanted to give Ziad and his mom all of the knowledge I had on the American education system, in hopes that Ziad could pursue that dream. I recognized the amount of resources I had at my disposal as a college student. This was the catalyst for RefugeUC, a mentorship organization that pairs college students from the University of Cincinnati with refugee high school students in order to promote higher education. With as many as 25,000 refugees, Cincinnati is regarded as a sanctuary city. A sanctuary city is defined as one where the local government and police work together in order to protect immigrants and refugees from deportation. In other terms, we welcome refugees here, approximately 200 to 300 every year. Wanting to turn privilege into action, a group of UC students and I sought out to start mentoring refugee high school students in Cincinnati. Out of all of the teachers that we reached out to in the Cincinnati Public School District, only one allowed us into his classroom. Mr. Parker, who's also in the audience today, is an English second language teacher at Aiken High School. While some teachers go the extra mile for their students, Mr. Parker goes an extra 10. Not just because he's the cross-country coach, but because Mr. Parker recognizes that the refugee students in his class come from diverse backgrounds with various educational levels. He implements programs in his class that are tailored to fit the needs of these students. One of those programs being RefugeUC. To an outsider, Mr. Parker's class may seem hectic at times. In one corner, a group of students are working on their college application. In another, students registering for the PSAT. While a third group of students is working on their history project. However, the one thing that an outsider does not know about these students is that the commonality that binds them all together is their commitment and resilience to obtaining an education regardless of their refugee status. Aiken High School is the second top enroller of refugee students in Cincinnati, with the highest achieving English language learner program in the district. Aiken continues to have high growth rates in reading, writing, and speaking. Yet, significant strides are needed to be made in refugee education, not only on a local level, but a national one. I first realized that the system was not created to benefit these students when I entered a class where the student-to-teacher ratio was 50-1. Refugee students are held to the same standard as other students, yet are not being provided the same standard of needs. When Muhammad asks to be paired with a mentor who speaks the same language as him, because in the 4 months that he's been in school, he hasn't been able to understand his teacher, then we have failed him. When Zaina, who dreams of becoming a lawyer, can no longer pursue that dream because she can't comprehend the reading portion of the ACT, then we have failed her. When Abdurrahman asks his mentor how he can stay awake in class because he was up until 5 a.m. trying to understand the directions on his homework, then we have failed him. We can blame these students for being too ambitious, or we can look at the system that withdraws its educational support once a student turns 21 and ages out of high school. Only 3% of refugee students have access to higher education. This is due to a multifaceted system of barriers that includes unwelcoming environments, lack of resources, and flawed educational approaches. My family and I immigrated to the United States from Alexandria, Egypt. When I came here, I didn't know English. Fortunately for me, I had my own English second language teacher, Ms. Deck. I remember one of the first homework assignments I had was to learn how to spell and say from 1 to 100. Simple enough, not for me. I remember going home after school and obsessing over these numbers, getting frustrated when I didn't know what came after 12, let alone how to spell 12. There was a stack of papers that was dedicated to my failed attempts of spelling the number 12. However, I recall the day that I was able to successfully say and spell from 1 to 100. It was a milestone for me, and I recall it at every grand event that I have, such as this one, because it was the first time since I had been in this country where I didn't feel helpless. I started RefugeUC because the one thing that my younger self desperately needed was a friend. Someone to tell me that wearing my hair in a middle part in braid every day was okay. Someone to tell me that having a unibrow wasn't really that bad. Was that bad? And honestly, anyone that would have given me a heads up about Halloween. I want you to picture a shorter version of myself opening the door to a group of teenagers who had fake blood on themselves, yelling, "Trick or treat." It's absolutely bizarre. They don't really prepare you for that in Egypt. While younger Mentalla didn't have a mentor who could tell her that everything would be okay, or an organization like RefugeUC that could advocate for her, older Mentalla became that mentor and created that organization. Teachers like Mr. Parker and Ms. Deck are the reason that I can stand in front of you today and give this talk in a language that is not my own. I am not smarter than the girl who sits in a refugee camp, not more ambitious than the refugee student who dreams of becoming a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. All I am is someone who is given an opportunity. I want you to take a moment and reflect on someone who saw your potential when you couldn't see it for yourself. Whether you decide to start your own mentorship organization, or you start volunteering at your local mosque, church, or school. I challenge you to give an hour of your time every week. I challenge you to create a welcoming environment. I challenge you to invest in students like Akbar. I challenge you to invest in our refugee students. Thank you.